boyish things.
Right.
So I've never really been fazed by boys or men, however you want to class them. I mean, yes, sometimes there's been times where you get a little bit nervous if you need to speak to someone about something, but it's all about holding your own, being confident about who you are as a person, trusting that you can do your job properly, and really knowing that they're your equals. Yeah, they're male. It's a male-dominated environment, but that's not how it is. You're an equal. You're no higher or lower on the spectrum. But yeah, that's sort of basically how I feel about sort of being in that environment. But it's never fazed me. It's never really bothered me, and I'm really lucky because I've never really ever had anyone be negative towards me in the sense of me being a woman and like working with men in a locker room. I've only ever had one incident where someone made a flipping comment. I'm not going to name any names, but it was someone who I was so excited to meet, and then it just sort of blew everything out the water. But no, it's just they made a silly wee comment about, oh, why is she here? Why is there a woman down here? Ooh. And that's been the only time that's ever happened. And I mean, yeah, it could have been in a jokey manner, but still to me, I just think that that's not okay. But it's one of these things, you brush it off. But like I said, I'm really lucky because I know there's plenty of other women who work in wrestling who have had to deal with a lot worse in terms of inequality. And I think there's sort of like a big thing about that at the moment, inequality in wrestling. But I've been lucky at the fact that people who I've worked with have always been so respectful. They've never judged me. They treat me as an equal, and they don't treat me any less as what they would treat any of the other boys, which I'm really lucky and grateful for.
Now, actually, you do mention in a couple of your videos that you have met a couple of actual independent wrestlers. Who have been some of the people that you have had the honor to, talk to interview with, to really kind of, get some kind of acquaintanceship or friendship with?
Wow. Geez. I've been working in wrestling for quite a while now, so there's a long, long list. I mean, obviously, with you being American, we'll start off with sort of American. Well, I've worked a lot with Chris Sabin at Discovery. Wow. He's featured a lot at Discovery Wrestling in Edinburgh. He was part of a big storyline with introducing the Y Division Championship, which is currently being held by Lewis Girvin. And he's brilliant. He's probably one of the easiest people to work with. He's so laid back, so friendly, so polite. He's one of those guys that you meet and you just totally gravitate to instantaneously. He's a credit to wrestling completely. He's been great to work with. Recently, I worked with Ricochet, Prince Puma, Angelico and Shane Strickland, which is Killshot, Lucha Underground. I worked with them recently. I actually took them on a small tour of Edinburgh to keep them occupied for the few hours before the show in Edinburgh, which was really good fun. Took them to Edinburgh Castle, which they loved. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see a picture that was taken from there, which is quite funny. I'm trying to think of other sort of key people who I really enjoyed spending time with. The Young Bucks, two absolute wonderful human beings and fantastic wrestlers. I mean, they are the greatest tag team in the world. They're wonderful, great human beings, complete family men. They just adore their families. They're doing it for their families. They love wrestling, just love it. And that comes from them when you speak to them, which is really good. I'm trying to think who else. American? I feel like I'm going to end up kicking myself because I'm trying to think. Like, there's been so many people. Oh, yeah, John Morrison, he's another one who is fantastic. He's brilliant on the 5-star tour. Pretty much pulling out 5-star matches every single night. That is basically his deal. He's a great wrestler. PJ Black as well. He's wonderful. Worked with him through 5-star too. Carlito, press with him as well. So he'd do press interviews, and I'd be there, the one that was looking after it. So I'd run through questions, make sure nobody was asking anything stupid, and sort of those sorts of things. But he was wonderful to even just be in a room with him is just mind blowing, because I watched him as a small kid. I actually saw him at a WWE live show in Glasgow as well, which I actually made a Rey Mysterio mask out of cardboard and had glitter on it and everything, and I actually showed him a picture of it because I was too embarrassed to actually take it to the show. So I showed him a picture of the mask. I'd taken a picture on my phone. My mum had left the mask out for me before I left for tour, which was a really sweet gesture, and she says, "Oh, well, this is such a big deal, like you've gone from here to now what you're doing." And I showed him it, and he was so impressed. He loved the colours and loved it, and he said, "Oh, you should have brought it for me." And I was just sitting there saying, "Oh, damn, I should have brought it now."
Oh, man.
But that was one of those sort of surreal moments that you're just very grateful for, and that's definitely the fact I get to work with all these amazing human beings is great. So in terms of sort of in your aspect, the American wrestlers is great, but I get to work with a whole bunch of amazing UK talent, which the UK is just absolutely filled with talent at the moment.
Oh, yeah. There's
such a huge long list of amazing wrestlers.
Well, it's just funny because you're mentioning a lot of the guys like Ricochet, Rey Mysterio, Johnny Mundo, and I'm just thinking to myself, how many people are listening to this broadcast right now, and they are just marking out like, "Oh my God, this woman has worked with Rey Mysterio? Come on!" I can name 2 people in particular that are just freaking out because, "Oh, she met Ricochet? Are you kidding?" It's like, hey, Prince Puma, come on. I mean, why not? Jeez.
It's nuts.
Oh, man. And honestly, I'm just, mind boggled at so many different levels on how many people you've worked with. But talking a little bit about the UK wrestling, I think that the UK wrestling style has been very underappreciated. And I think a couple of the top guys that I think that come to mind when I think of UK wrestling are Magnus, British Bulldog, and Rockstar Spud. I think are like the top 3 guys that I can think of that really just make, UK wrestling just a huge deal. You mentioned that you knew a couple of the UK wrestlers. Do you want to just give a couple names so that more people can just be like, "Oh, you lucky person, you."
Oh my goodness, I think I'll be here all day. But just ones in terms of just sheer length of the time in the business. I'll run through a few companies and I'll just sort of spew out some names.
That's fine.
ICW, which everyone's very much well aware of. I'd say some of the best talent from that company. I mean, there's so many people in ICW that have so much potential to go very, very far. Joe Hendry's one of the ones, especially. His videos that he's been filming recently, one that he did on Mr. Anderson. So if any of you want to look up Pokemon Mr. Anderson on YouTube for IC on that, it should be on the ICW YouTube channel. So if you want to go and look at that, enjoy that. He's an incredible wrestler, definitely one who sort of embraces the British style of wrestling, as you were talking about. He has such a huge, bright future ahead of him. Damien O'Connor, Big Damo in ICW, it's fair to. I also work with him at Discovery Wrestling. He's just brilliant. Like I can't even express. He's such a wonderful wrestler. His style is, I think, quite unique as well. And mentioning Big Damo, I also have to mention Nikki Storm. Nikki Storm, best in the galaxy, she puts it. She is literally probably one of the best wrestlers in the galaxy. In terms of women's wrestling, she's unbelievable. Let me think. In terms of sort of ICW royalties, I would put it, in terms of NAK, which has sort of gone through a little bit of a change, like there's been a bit of a break from the NAK, some have defected from it, so if you follow ICW storyline, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Chris Renfrew, BT Gunn, Stevie Boy, they're fantastic. They've been in the business business for a very, very long time, and they're a complete credit to ICW. I was actually at ICW a few weeks ago, and it was one of the Friday Night Fight Club pay-per-view, things that they have on the on-demand service. And BT and Stevie Boy had one of the best matches that I have seen in such a long time. They wrestle quite a lot, and I've seen them wrestle a few times over the years, but that match that they had, they just brought something spectacular out of each other. So if anyone has ICW on demand, please go watch that Friday Night Fight Club match of BT Gunn and Stevie Boy, as it's one of the best that there's been for quite a long time. So I think that's ICW covered. We'll cover ICW. I'm trying to think overall. Well, obviously Will Ospreay, one of the best wrestlers in the UK. I highly recommend him. He's just phenomenal, and it's just got such amazing things coming his way. I think Mark Mandrews on TNA. He's spectacular and a very good friend. In terms of sort of more extreme wrestling, Jimmy Havoc, who I actually featured in my WhatCulture Cesaro video, which so many people couldn't believe that it was actually him. There's so many people know she did get Jimmy Havoc on the phone, did she?
I remember that. That was awesome.
Which is a funny story to that, as he was in Australia, and it was very early in the morning when I phoned him, and he's currently injured at the moment. He busted his leg while in Australia, so he's kind of out of action at the moment, but he's definitely one to watch. If anyone in America has never seen Jimmy Havoc wrestle, watch his stuff on YouTube. He's great. I'm trying to think of other wrestlers. Oh my goodness, there's so many. Oh my goodness, it's so difficult.
We'll take a little break from that, so that way you don't have to worry about your mind just exploding here. So once again, guys, we're here with Suzie Kennedy from WhatCulture.com, and we're going to take live questions from all of you guys that want to comment here on Spreaker.com as well as on Twitter. I know there's a couple questions that everybody want to know, but I need to ask a question because we're going to transition into it, and that is indeed the legendary WhatCulture.com. How did you get into it, and how did this whole thing? Because this was kind of where I got interested in you, because when Adam Blampier was talking about Pachiti Club and mentioned your name, and I just thought to myself, well, who is this girl? And I had to watch the live reaction. It's like, okay, this girl's pretty amazing. I mean, why not? And then doing the whole the double cross, turning from Pachiti Club to BX was again amazing. I was not expecting you to give a low blow the way you did. I'm just like, oh, I don't care who you are. That's gonna hurt, especially from somebody from Glasgow. Come on. And then we get into so what kind of prompted you to go into WhatCulture.com? What kind of got you involved with them?
Well, it was actually my friend Kenny has worked with WhatCulture for quite a while. You will probably know him as Fuck Kenny by many of the WhatCulture community. There is actually a Fuck Kenny t-shirt, so if anybody wants to go to the WhatCulture t-shirt store, you can buy your Fuck Kenny t-shirts, your BX t-shirts, your Petite Club t-shirts.
Nice little family values. Nice family values of go get a Fuck Kenny t-shirt right now. Smile, grin, thumbs up, ding. Good to go.
So what happened, I spoke to my friend Kenny, and he'd been in contact when I was doing the 5-star tour, and says that they were going to come along to the Newcastle show because they'd done the thing for AJ Styles and getting questions. So they came to me, we spoke, we had a plan. They were like, oh, we really need AJ. AJ's who we need today. And I was like, yeah, sure, is there anybody else that you need? And they just sort of had, well, anybody